we can have a disagreement about ideas without attacking the individual who is making the claim or expressing the ideas.
When people speak more about the objection, they end up realizing that maybe their objection isn't as powerful as they thought.
I love the name Red Pen Logic, except it invokes this sort of fear response of my teacher red penning my paper and making me feel like an idiot. Why did you call it Red Pen Logic?
Okay, so we gotta go back to the history of how Red Pen was born. Okay, so a couple of years ago, the pandemic hit. And I couldn't travel across the border. One of the things I do for work is speak at churches in the U.S. and Canada. And
because you're from Canada.
That's right, I'm from Canada. So you might pick up the Canadian accent as we go here. And I was stuck at home and thinking, how can I be more productive? And I was just as we do, I was surfing through social media. Mm-hmm. And I came across a tweet, and it was about abortion. And it was kind of an argument or a claim defending the pro-choice view. And I thought, man, this is so mistaken. It would be really cool if someone took a red pen and corrected this tweet. Now, I used to be a full-time high school science and math teacher, okay? So this is what we did. We would take the pen and correct students' work. And it wasn't to put the student down. No, I wanted to help the student think more clearly. And so what I did was I got out the red pen and I kind of wrote on the tweet and posted it to social media. And Red Pen was born in that moment. People were liking and sharing this graphic, and I actually got to interact a little bit with the person who tweeted the original tweet, who was actually a movie star. And anyways, we went back and forth, and it was a real friendly discussion. I thought, there's something here.
What is your goal? What do you hope to accomplish with Red Pen Logic?
Well, with Red Pen Logic, what we want to do, and we say this in our videos, we want to assess bad thinking by using good thinking. And we try to have some fun in the process. And my goal is just to get people to think a little bit more clearly about the things they're saying and be able to assess the ideas that are floating around the culture. And I think that what's happening in our culture is people are being persuaded by really bad ideas.
For sure.
I have sat down with young people who are on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram, and they're becoming convinced by apologists, by people defending views that are unchristian, just from reading tweets. And so what we're doing with Red Pen is we're trying to expose those ideas for what they are, correct them in the process, and give Christians the ability to be able to respond for themselves.
Well, I love learning things. I'm curious about just about everything, which is why I love talking to people. And it's your love for learning that you say that really inspired you to get all in with Red Pen Logic.
Yeah.
Are you a learner yourself? I mean, who are the experts that you look to inform your views to be able to correct and Red Pen other people? Yeah, so I mean, this may sound a little self-serving, but my boss, Greg Koukl at Stand to Reason, is one of my mentors and one of my teachers. And so I honestly look to him in a lot of, and so we've had a lot of fun responding to tweets together. I mean, here's the thing. People think, oh, there's Mr. B, and that's what my students used to call me. So that's why we call it Red Pen Logic with Mr. B. All my students call me Mr. B. And they think, oh, Mr. B has, he's got the answers. Well, that's not always true. Sometimes I don't know the answer. And so I go to the people I look up to, my spiritual mentors and disciplers, and it's people like Greg Koukl. So I'll get on the phone with Greg. Hey, have you seen this tweet? What do you think is wrong with it? And then, of course, Greg's the guy who asks all the questions, right? He wrote the book Tactics, and it's all about asking questions. No, Tim, what do you think? And we'll go back and forth on, what are the main ideas here that need to be responded to? And that's what we'll get the red pen out and we'll start working and crafting something. Again, we want it to be as clear and as accessible as possible. So someone could read the red marks on this tweet and be able to see
what's wrong with it, and then hopefully go the next step further. Because obviously we can't expose all the errors in just a simple graphic or in a 3-minute video. No, oftentimes there's more that needs to be said. And our hope is that people will go the next step and say, you know what, this has got me thinking. Here's another problem, here's another problem. And now this is what learning's about. Now you're thinking for yourself. I don't want to just tell you what to believe. I want you to think for yourself and come to those conclusions on your own.
I'm sure there are plenty of critics of red pen logic. I mean, you're in there correcting somebody's tweet or their meme.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to what your critics hate most about red pen logic.
Well, we get a ton of criticism, okay?
What do they hate the most about what you do?
Well, oftentimes people misunderstand what we're trying to accomplish. They think that we're attacking a person, an individual. And I want to be clear here. We are assessing ideas, not individuals, okay? Of course, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 4 and 5 says, the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. What are the strongholds? It says, we destroy arguments and every idea, lofty idea raised up against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. So we're attacking arguments, not the arguer.
Which is exactly opposite of what we often see.
That's right.
In the media. We have these, what do they call that? An ad hominem argument?
That's right, ad hominem
where they're
attacks.
actually going after the person to destroy them, even if their arguments are good.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is the opposite.
That's right. We want to show that, look it, we can have a disagreement about ideas without attacking the individual who is making the claim or expressing the ideas. This is really important because in our culture, what we're seeing is, look, if you disagree with someone, then you should call them names. You should ridicule them. You should attack the man, the ad hominem. No. We want to show, we want to model, and hopefully we do this through our videos. When people watch, we're taking on the ideas and we're leaving the individual out of it.
Greg, you were talking about the opportunities that we have when someone contradicts their own worldview to exploit that mistake.
Right.
How do you do that in a polite way?
Okay. I have found a life-changing way to do that. When I say life-changing, over the last 15 or 20 years, this has absolutely transformed the way I engage people. And what I do is I use questions. Now, I pause there because that doesn't sound very profound, but it's amazing how effective it can be if we get into the habit of it. We can use questions to gather more information. People make claims against Christianity, okay? Well, then I want to say, well, help me understand that. What do you mean by that? The Bible's been changed over the years. Well, explain that process to me. How did that happen? Tell it to me. And I want them to tell me more about their objection. Okay, now this sounds counterproductive maybe for many Christians. Like, I don't want to hear more of the objection. But I found that when people speak more about the objection, they end up realizing that maybe their objection isn't as powerful as they thought. Another thing that I want to do is if a person is making their point against Christianity, the impulse of a lot of Christians, especially more aggressive ones who've had some training in Christian defenses, is to give the reasons why they're wrong. But what we've done then is we've taken the responsibility the burden of proof on ourselves. And if another person makes a claim against Christianity, there is no God, or the Bible's been changed, or Jesus never existed, or we evolved, etc., etc., it is their job to defend their claim before it's my job to refute it. So I'm going to ask another question. Okay, I understand your view, because I've drawn them out a little bit with the first question. What do you mean by that? Now I want to know, how is it that they came to that conclusion? Tell me a little bit about the reasons why you think that's so. Now again, I'm not advancing my view yet, so how am I making progress? Kirk, people will be absolutely stunned by using two questions. What do you mean by that? And drawing people out to get more information and asking for the reasons for their conclusions. In different ways you can ask that. You'd be stunned at how much progress they're going to make. Because lots of times people don't have good reasons for their views, and when or any at all. And sometimes when they are asked to articulate it, They don't know where to go. Okay, I call it the Simon and Garfunkel moment, because these are the guys who wrote the song back in 1966, I'm dating myself, called The Sounds of Silence. And that's what you get in a moment like that. So those are like 2 steps where there's no pressure on the Christian at all. And what the Christian is doing is gathering 2 different types of information in the conversation.
Right.
So if you were the one who opposed me in a particular view, I'd want to get as much information from you as I could, Kirk, on what your opposition was and why you think your opposition is legitimate, okay? Notice I'm not in the deep end of the pool here. I'm
right.
ankle deep. I'm not taking any pressure because I'm not making any claims yet, okay? The third step is very similar, but it's an advanced step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask questions to make a point. So let's go back to our atheist that we were talking about, who's critiquing God, the God of the Bible, as immoral, all right? Now, I know, and I explained this point earlier, that the atheist in his worldview has no sufficient grounding or foundation to make a moral charge against God. Because if it's just molecules in motion, there's no morality.
And as you like to say, he's got his feet firmly planted in midair.
That's right, exactly right, exactly. And so I could just say, you can't claim God as evil because there's no grounding for evil in your world. You don't believe in good and bad and evil and etc. in your worldview. But see, I'd just be arguing with him. Instead, I can make the same point by asking a question. And in that case, I'd say, tell me, where are you getting your moral standard that you're judging God by? Now the ball's in his court. I've asked a question. It's his job to answer. But the question goes right to the weakness of the view. Now, of course, you need to see the weakness, okay? And I do talk about that a lot in the tactics book, and I'm actually writing another book to follow up on the tactics franchise, so to speak, that gives more information about that kind of thing to help people to ask the questions to exploit the weaknesses. But notice, though, that these are all questions. Notice that I can be completely relaxed. I can have a conversation with somebody in a relaxed manner. I'm not banging heads with them. I'm not mad at them. I'm not getting into fights. I'm very passively defending my turf by asking questions about the other person's view.